Hi there, and welcome to this week's Soul Wisdom Show, where I'm delighted to be interviewing a very dear, good friend of mine, Marcelle Rose, and we're going to be talking about spotlighting on self-worth and your relationship with food and body image and how it impacts your growing business. But welcome to everyone who has joined the group recently. We've had a few new members come in and joining us. And so for those of you that don't know me, I'm Natasha Harris, and I work with the ancient wisdom of the Akashic Records to really support you in taking your business to the next level of impact and leadership. So if you're watching live, then please do comment, please do ask us questions while you have Marcelle here live to answer those. If you're watching the recording, please type #replay and ask us questions, tag Marcelle and tag I, and we will come back and we will make sure that we do come back and answer those. So welcome, Marcelle. It's great to have you here. Very exciting for us to be talking about
I know,
food.
it's lovely.
We talk about a lot.
We do. We do.
So tell us just a little bit about you.
So thanks, Natasha. So I am a registered nutritionist and emotional eating coach. I work with women predominantly on helping them overcome a difficult relationship with food and body image so that they can be truly feel free to do what they want to do in life, really, and achieve what they want to achieve. So
yeah, it really does hold us back, doesn't it, when we don't have a real hold ourselves in real high worth and really, yeah, it just makes such a difference to how we approach everything.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's massive. Just from working with many clients over the years, and just starting out where it was just about nutrition, and then seeing just how much that it's impacted people's lives, and looking at holistically at it. It's fascinating actually how the impact that it can make.
Yeah, and we were just talking before, and we've got some really great tips for you all to really just turn this around on its head. It's, Marcelle has a very different approach to working with people around nutrition and food. But yeah, tell us a little bit about how you kind of got into this work and working around food, because that's quite interesting.
Yeah, sure. So I haven't always done this as a career. I used to be a fashion buyer, as you know, and it was quite a stressful job. I probably didn't look after myself very well. There was a lot of traveling. There was a lot of going out. There was a lot of working very long hours. I didn't really look after my sleep. I didn't really eat very well. Not just really what I was eating, but how I was eating. I was eating when I was stressed. I was eating when I was on the go. And consequently ended up with sort of all sorts of, trouble with my gut, a very unhappy gut, and IBS and all sorts of things. And that sort of led me to eventually get help from a nutritional practitioner. In fact, she was the only person that was able to really make a difference after going down, medical routes and stuff with that. And that was like a light bulb moment to me. I was like, wow, actually, the power of nutrition and what can be done, and by sort of taking a more holistic approach to things. So that's when I really started to think, right, I'm going to be ready for a career change soon. Yeah. And then I, retrained as a nutritional therapist, and really started to work with the clients. But I noticed that I was getting a lot of clients coming through who were really struggling with their relationship with food. They might come to me for weight loss originally, but actually it wasn't the weight loss and the dieting and stuff that they needed. And I really felt like I needed to dig deeper at that point and find out I needed more tools to help these people. So that's when I ended up training as a health coach. And the coaching was really, that made a big difference, because, you're really looking at motivating people. You're looking at the whole picture. You're looking at more of a collaborative way of working. So that with the nutritional science was fantastic. And then, and then I started to get people who perhaps coming to me who perhaps had history of eating disorders and things. And that's when I thought, well, I can't work with these people till I've had that training. So then I went and did the training at the National Centre for Eating Disorders. where I'd learnt to work with people with disordered eating and obesity and on that area. So that for me was the final piece of the jigsaw, and then I've managed to be able to really put all the three things together to create something that really seems to work.
Yeah, and it's so interesting, isn't it? Because you talk about the relationship with food, and everything is a relationship, how we relate to everything, and our relationship with food is such a big one. We either have a really healthy and good relationship with food, or we really don't. And you talked about eating, when you're stressed, and eating when you're overworked and when you're tired. It's like filling that stopgap, and I'm sure that so many of us can relate to that. And especially in times right now where things are really challenging, it's grabbing things on the go, and that really can be helpful when we're trying to run a business and we're trying to look after a family and homeschooling and all of these kind of things. And it's really around looking at that relationship. I think now more than ever is so important if we're running our own business and we want to have the energy to input the right energy into our business so we can get the right output from our business as well.
Absolutely. I mean, many people I work with who really struggle with this, they are constantly they have constant anxiety around thinking about food, or I shouldn't have eaten that, or I should have done that, or what should I be eating, or I don't know if what I'm doing is right, or all of this constant chatter. And it's just a drain on our resources. And, when we're building our own business, we want to be there and present in our business and not being drained and constantly thinking about this, with those negative sort of critical inner thoughts going on all the time.
Yeah, because it impacts everything, doesn't it? If we're not eating well, I guess we're not sleeping well. And so then that impacts our business as well. So, looking at what we're eating and what we're fueling ourselves with is such an important, now we're talking about this even more. It's like really can see how we really have to be much more mindful around what we're really eating. And I know you've got some tips, and I know that's one of them. So why don't we start?
Yeah, absolutely. Being mindful, mindful eating. I mean, I know this is it's a word that's sort of bandied around a lot, but there's a lot into it. You can really go into it, because it's not just about what you're eating, it's about how you're eating and about why you're eating as well. And those are key, almost more than that's almost what I focus more on with my clients now, and people are or start off with some people are quite surprised that it's almost like, well, forget what you're eating at the moment. Let's just look at why you've eaten and how you're eating, because it's all about that slowing down. Because there's a number of reasons how that can impact. Firstly, obviously, you're not focusing on you. That's when you can end up with going for the sort of foods that are not helpful. And I don't like to call foods good or bad. I like to say helpful and less helpful, in terms of physiology. Yeah, because I don't agree with the rules around, having food rules. So it's more around, yes, what are the foods that can help and promote our physiology? What are the foods that can help regulate our blood sugar so that we're not craving sugar and the foods that then continue this cycle? So there are certain foods functionally that will help us, but at the same time, it's about the thoughts that go on when we're eating. So if we're eating foods and having those sort of a kind of negative thoughts, triggering a stress response, it's really going to impact how we actually metabolize our food and break it down, and get use of our nutrients, but also in terms of burning our food. The whole of our physiology is affected if we're not eating in a calm and mindful way, if we're not really taking that deep breath before we eat, and chewing well. But we're also, many people also really struggle with gut problems and stomach problems, and one of the reasons for that is if they're not slowing down, chewing, but thinking about what they're eating, and they're in that stress response again, then they are actually diverting all their energy and blood away from their digestive system.
Oh, wow.
And they're not again, they're not breaking down their food. So that's when you can end up with things like bloating and
oh, my goodness.
all sorts of uncomfortable, digestive problems as well. So there's so many advantages to doing it.
Oh my goodness. So what really just came to me was just this picture of us like all busy working on our businesses and going, right, I've got 10 minutes between clients, running down to the kitchen and just like, and I have to say I'm guilty of that as well. And on occasion, like just making sure that I take that time, just how important that is on all sorts of levels. And just I love the way that you just reframed, you had those questions. Creating that awareness of it's not what you're eating, it's how you're eating and why you're eating. Is it just to stuff food and substance just so you can get on and see the next client? Oh my goodness, it's revelationary. Thank you for that. It's so much for me. I can see a few people watching. Just let us know in the comments if that resonates with you, if you recognize some of that in your own habits as running a business, or if you've got any questions at all while you're watching, please pop them in the comments. We will come back to them. That is really, we've had lots of conversations, but I think that for me has just been like really quite a bit of a light bulb moment for me. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Then there's other things that I know that is very common as well. It's that whole, well, if you're eating mindlessly, you're going to the cupboard because you want to sustain yourself with some kind of energy. So biscuits come out. Then it's a bit of a cycle going on because then you're sort of eating the biscuit. Then you realise you're eating the biscuit. You might have wanted that short-term reward, which you get from the comfort from eating the biscuit, which is fine. It's okay to eat the biscuit. But the problem is when you get into this habit loop of then the negative thoughts creep in. Well, I've just blown it. What have I done? I've failed again. And then, well, I might as well just eat the whole pack of biscuits. And then the cycle keeps going round. So there's when you start to get present on eating and thinking, okay, am I actually really hungry now, or is there something else I'm needing? Am I stressed, or am I actually needing some proper food? Am I really hungry? And what part of the work I do with my clients is on that, learning to really identify those hunger signals and those satiety signals.
So important, and just again that idea of like when we think we fail at food or how we eat or what we're eating, we go back to sit at our desks or we work with a client and we've got this mindset of I've failed. And how detrimental is that to us and our business? It's huge.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, how can we be confident business entrepreneurs if we are not truly happy or with ourselves or don't like ourselves inside because we think we failed or we don't like our body image? It's really impactful. And I was mentioned earlier just the fact that as entrepreneurs these days, we really have to be present on social media.
Yeah.
And mainly and video. And it's really tough for people, who are not happy with their body image to do that. So it's a big sort of barrier to moving forward in that way. Yeah. And another thing is that whole for many of us as entrepreneurs, we are the product that we're selling. So if we're not confident in ourselves, it's all a bit of a vicious cycle.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we need to be confident that, in what we're doing and how we're doing it and how we're presenting ourselves. And it's so important. And that's a confidence thing. Sometimes we can learn that but if we're feeling worthless inside, or we don't have that self-worth and we don't have that good body image, that we love ourselves, that we're okay the way we are, then that's what we give out. And that's a lot of the work that I do is around what we are inside is what we are,
Yeah.
living out. So if we
Mm.
don't love ourselves, that's what we're showing energetically to people, and that has a huge impact on the people, how people view us, how we carry ourselves, and how people see us.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's massive. It's and I think underestimated.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's not about being out there and having all the confidence in the world. It's about liking ourselves, being kind to ourselves.
Yeah.
Because that sense of care, it's
Yeah.
really big. Yeah.
Definitely. Just the acceptance that actually we're enough,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because
We
that
are.
can also feed into other things at the moment. And as you said earlier, you know, many of us are trying to homeschool and deal with, or just generally dealing with the pandemic, and you know, just to know that we're enough.
Yeah, that everything
so
we do.
important.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a massive advocate of that. We can only do what we can do, and it is enough. Yeah, however we show up, whatever we're doing. Yeah, that's just a really important message. So that's a really great one. What's your second tip, Marcelle?
So my second tip is really about ditching the diet, and yeah, because I think this is part of the problem. We have been fed for many years by mass media, by diet culture. You know, you've got diet, billion dollar pound diet and fitness industry to some extent, feeding us these misconceptions that you have to, you know, you have to diet, you have to restrict, you have to compensate, and actually, when you do look at the science and the studies, in the long term, 95% of diets don't work. So they may work initially, and that's, you know, talking about calorie restriction, you know, whether it be calorie restriction, keto, whether it be no carb, you know, whatever you're doing, sins and that. At the end of the day, between 1 and 5 years, 95% of people regain the weight, and often they regain the weight after that, even more than they had originally. And then often their metabolism is completely messed up, and so the next time they try and diet, it's even harder, and so the cycle goes on. And really, it's just there's a lot of misconception around, you know, health and actually weight loss, but there's, you know, I could go into whole that, but that's a whole nother thing. But
let's have another chat about that another time.
But even, you know, mentally and emotional health, where does that come into it as well, you know? So so it's really about just allowing yourself, it comes back to the mindful eating, obviously, and really thinking about how your body feels good with what you eat, and rather than trying to restrict, because we know that restriction leads in the end to most people, you know, falling off the bandwagon of a diet. For many people who binge eat, you know, the restriction leads to the binge eating. So so it's a really
a vicious cycle.
Yeah, it's a really negative cycle. So if you could actually you know, the third tip is actually giving yourself that permission to lose those rules around food, and to just learn. There is a process, and it takes time to learn to have trust in yourself and how much you actually really need. You know, not trying to go on a number of calories. I mean, everybody is completely different. Everyone has different metabolisms, biochemistry, different builds, different bodies. How can we possibly be told that everyone has to have the same number of calories in a day?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It makes no sense whatsoever.
No, it doesn't. And, you know, we all have different needs and requirements and things. So it's really learning to trust yourself and have that deeper understanding. yourself.
Yeah. And it's, you know, it's like a lot of the stuff that I come back to always comes back to giving yourself permission to do certain things and trusting yourself and loving yourself and really liking yourself. And it's like food is not separate from any of that. It's a part of that. And as you said at the very beginning, you look at the holistic element of everything. And so that's so true, isn't it? And it's like finding something that make you feel good, give you the energy, sustain you, coming back again to that mindful eating of what am I eating and how does it feel?
Yes, yeah. It's how does it feel? What do I even feel like eating today? I want warm food or cold food, crunchy or smooth food.
Yeah.
What do I need to fuel me today? But in many ways, rather than it's just fuel that's going in the tank, it's what other things it brings to the table. How can I get joy from my food? And
I love joy.
Yeah, because I know I mentioned the biscuits, but if you're going to have a biscuit and you want a biscuit,
Enjoy it.
it's about having that biscuit and deciding what's your intention. I'm going to now have that biscuit, but I'm going to eat it mindfully, and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to take it slowly and take joy from it. Because if you're not taking joy, and again, back to that stress response, that's when you just don't get that satisfaction from it. And then it leads to, that cycle again.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And it comes back to making choices, doesn't it? That's what I'm hearing. It's like, comes back to making powerful choices about what are you choosing to eat? How does it feel? Why are you doing it? How are you eating it? It's like coming back to that choice in everything that we do that gives us that empowers us to do things differently and show up differently and in our businesses. Wow. Fascinating. Gosh. Yeah. Really interesting. Yeah, there was another question that was on the tip of my tongue, but it's gone. So what else is there within that? I know it's being present, isn't it? It's being present in, what you're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's the whole kind of, it's, starting to learn to eat intuitively. And by doing that, it's, and by trusting in yourself, then you start to kind of accept, you can start on that road to accepting your body as well. That it's not, why are we driven to thinking that we have to look a certain way in society? It's crazy that it's very hard with social media and influencers. And, I work with grown professional women who are amazing, intelligent women. And they admit to me, I've been following these influencers on Instagram just because of the way they look. But I know that they're not really inspiring me with anything. And they've obviously, changed that. But, it can be so influential.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, what a fascinating conversation, and so many different directions that I want to take it in. But gosh, we won't stop. But yeah, so I also thank you so much, Marcelle. That's really helpful, and certainly given me a lot of nuggets for thought. And I hopefully those of you that are watching, I can still see a few people watching, it's given you, if you've got any questions, just let us know how this resonated with you. Just pop something in the comments for us. That would be really lovely. And if you're watching the replay, again, don't forget to type #replay and just let us know if you've got any questions, and tag Marcelle and I. But I know you have something that you want to offer the community and people that are watching today. So tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So I have got a free mini course that I'm doing at the moment, a 5-day mini course. It did just start on Monday, but I've had a few people ask to join, and I think if you can get onto it today, then there's definitely time to get going with it. So it's called Break Free from Food Guilt. And it's basically a 5-day mini course where you have a short task to do every day, a short video training, and some live support from me in the group, in the community. And you really ideally, it's that you can kind of take your first steps towards food freedom, because often the first steps are the hardest.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you feel like, you know, somebody's holding your hand and taking you on that first step to realize that actually you can do this.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I will put the link, if that's okay, in the comments.
Absolutely. And is that in your Facebook group, Marcelle?
So yeah, so basically it's not my Fuss Free Healthy Eating Facebook group. It's a separate pop-up group that I'm doing that in. But there's if I put the link, there'll be a landing page that they can then sign up to, and they'll also get emails as well.
Okay, so we'll pop,
yeah.
So as soon as we've finished on this live, Marcelle will pop the link in there if you're interested. So just come back after a few minutes of us finishing, and we'll make sure that that's in there straight away for you, so you can get started today. That's great. And also we'll put your links in the comments as well, how people can find you if they're interested in working with you, if they feel that they want to really shift that relationship with food. We'll also put Marcelle's website in the links and in the comments as well.
Lovely, thank you.
Yeah,
it's been lovely speaking to you about on this topic.
Yeah, always. Yeah, no, it's great. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your top tips. I'm pretty sure that everyone's got something that they've taken away from this. I certainly have. So I just also want to let everyone that's watching, know that I'm also running a free journey next week, starting on Monday the 18th, which is my 5-day abundance activation journey. It's all about accessing new earth frequencies and codes, so that we can take our abundance to the next level, and really activate that. So if that's of interest to you, the link is in the main post above. So just click on that, register there, and come and join me next Monday for 5 days of abundance and a real expansive journey going forwards. So thank you again, Marcelle. I've really enjoyed it. Perhaps you'll come and we'll talk about some of the other stuff and delve a little bit deeper into the whole food relationship thing and how it impacts us in business at another time. But to everyone watching, thank you very much, and I'll see you again next week for the Soul Wisdom Show over in my private Facebook group, Soul Inspired Leaders. See you then.